Nostalgia is a funny old thing. Studies show that we tend to retain positive experiences and bring them to the forefront of our minds, while the negative ones are pushed back, sometimes even deleted. Studies also show that if you start off a sentence with, quote, "studies show," people are more likely to believe you, even if you're making things up on the spot. In any case, the 1990 World Cup is one of the most confusing events that I've had the pleasure of looking into on this channel. A World Cup loved by many, probably due to nostalgia, while also a World Cup hated by many, probably due to the opposite of nostalgia. I can't really be bothered to look up the word, but I'm sure you get the idea. A tournament filled with never-before-seen expressive celebrations, tears that inspired a nation, and the unraveling of an unexpected goal-scoring machine. At the same time, a tournament filled with extremely cynical defending, probably the most boring final of all time, and the lowest goal-per-game ratio of any World Cup, a record that holds strong to this very day. For obvious reasons, it's difficult to pinpoint which World Cup is universally thought of as the best World Cup. So for this video, I thought I'd flip that idea around and look into what many believe to be the worst from a footballing perspective and one of the best from a cultural one. With that being said, what went down at Italia 90? Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe. Welcome back to another Football Iconic video. If you haven't already, and also if you wouldn't mind, you know what to do. Also, I was recently on my boy and fellow content creator Azam Abdullah's podcast where we talked about iconic World Cup moments, and if you like the sort of stuff that I make, then maybe just give him a try. Him and his boys do some really great stuff. I'll play a short clip from the interview here.
This one, actually, like when he started, I was actually shocked.
So you put that game because of one save that you remember?
One save and the goal that scored. And that's it. That's all I remember.
And the goal who scored?
Iniesta.
In extra time.
You said he was the most overrated player ever. Passenger of all passengers.
He's a passenger, yeah, but even passengers have their moments.
Out of the World Cups that you've watched, which was the worst?
Oh, I thought I've watched.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. You're probably right. You're probably right that it probably was...
2010.
It probably was in 2010.
Cool stuff. If you want to check out Azam's channel, it's linked below, so go ahead and do that. Back to the video. Full disclosure, I must admit that I wasn't born when the 1990 World Cup came around, so I can't call upon a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the political landscape that the world was in. Nonetheless, I've dug through quite a few articles, tidbits, and archive footage so we can paint a full picture. Going into the World Cup, Argentina were the reigning champions, a trophy that they would have had a hard time getting their hands on if the incomparable Diego Maradona didn't inspire them to victory. Undoubtedly the player of the decade throughout the 80s and the undisputed GOAT to many of those who grew up watching him destroy defenses across the globe, particularly in Italy with Napoli. However, by the time this tournament came around, Argentina paled in comparison to what they were only 4 years before that. When it comes to Maradona, he was only 29 and had just won Serie A for the second time, so he was nowhere near finished. But an ankle injury, a dip in form, and a few other high-profile injuries for Argentina saw them struggle. Nowhere was this more evident than in their opening match against Cameroon. Along with Egypt, Cameroon came into this World Cup as one of only 2 African teams, and very little was expected of them. Africa as a whole wasn't thought of as much of a footballing continent back then, not at the highest level at least. Yet here we have Cameroon taking down the reigning champions in their opener. A 1-0 scoreline where the indomitable Lions defended like their lives depended on it and sent shockwaves throughout the footballing world, doing wonders for opinions regarding African football in the process. They also set the tone for what was to come. And for the record, the reason this set the tone wasn't because of the shock victory. It was because it was a low-scoring game and Cameroon got 2 pretty blatant red cards in it. A total of 16 red cards were dished out throughout the duration of this month. Obviously not taking anything away from Cameroon, of course. They played valiantly and red cards or not, that's a result alright. Plus, you gotta do what you gotta do for the W. And even further to that, they topped their group, while Argentina only managed to progress thanks to being one of the best third-place teams. Elsewhere in the first round, Group F was out here producing one of the most dreary set of results you'll ever come across. Only 7 goals scored in 6 games. Only 1 win. England, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Egypt treated us to some high-quality play. I think we can all agree on that. This has to be one of the most depressing tables I've ever seen. The games were so devoid of excitement, Gary Lineker even decided to go to the toilet while on the pitch. Yes, this actually happened. He took a poop. This was 32 years ago, and the guy still has people reminding him of it on Twitter. Imagine if this was caught in 4K. he'd be in for a shitstorm. It was all the usual suspects that topped the rest of the group: Italy, Spain, West Germany, and Brazil, with Italy and Brazil being the only two teams that progressed with 100% records. So there were some positives at the very least, but as far as actual gameplay was concerned, scoring and attacking play was certainly not a priority, a common trend, unfortunately. So I've already mentioned that a lot of the gameplay in this tournament was thought to be overly negative and defensive for the most part, but maybe it's worth going over some of the reasons that explain just why that was the case. Two major ones that most people talk about are that, firstly, goalkeepers were allowed to pick up back passes back then. So you can only imagine the possibilities when it came to time wasting. And secondly, in the group stages, a win counted for 2 points and draws for a single point. So obviously a win was better, but the incentive to attack was much slimmer than it is today with the 3-point system. Moving on to the next stages of this tournament, I'm sure we all know by now that due to the very nature of knockout football, it's pretty normal that teams sit back and kind of prioritize defense, but this time, things were pretty crazy. 61% of goals scored in the knockouts came after the 70th minute, and exactly half of these matches went to extra time, including both semi-finals. The Republic of Ireland may as well have been the official mascot of this tournament, because somehow they managed to make it all the way through to the quarterfinals without winning a single match in regular time, needing penalties to win against Romania in the round of 16 before losing to Italy directly after. At face value, both semi-finals were forgetful. 1-1 draws all round between four of the traditional world football heavyweights. However, if you were to look deeper and past the scorelines, you'd quickly notice that these matches produced some of the most iconic and most revisited moments in the history of the competition. There was Diego Maradona's Argentina knocking the host nation out of the tournament while playing in Napoli's home stadium. The locker room must have been awkward when the Golden Boy came back for preseason. There was also Paul Gascoigne putting on an inspired performance against Germany, as he had done from day one of Italia 90, only to get a yellow card that meant that he would miss the final if England went through. As soon as he realizes it, the tears on his face start to appear, and at that moment, everyone understood just how much it all meant to him. After winning the '66 World Cup, England went on a lengthy dry spell where they never really came close to reclaiming the trophy. People began to lose hope. This performance, this emotion, it changed things. England ultimately lost, but the impact of their performance was not lost on the country. In the end, Germany beat Argentina by a single goal to nil in what many have described as the worst World Cup final ever. And of course, the victory was thanks to a penalty that was given in the 85th minute. Of course. I keep saying this, but it really does seem to be true. For a lot of people, this tournament is really looked down upon, particularly by the authors of a lot of the articles and book extracts that I was reading, and these are authors from very many nations too, not just one. Changes to rules ushered in following this tournament have subsequently, changed how football is played to this very day. For example, this World Cup is heavily believed to be the main inspiration behind the back pass rule, where goalkeepers aren't allowed to pick up balls after back passes, which seems obvious, looking back on it now that we've lived through this for so many years. And it's also the last World Cup that had a 2-point system for wins instead of the 3-point system in the group stages. Both of these changes have surely had an overwhelmingly positive effect when it comes to encouraging attacking play. Although it did take some time for the world to really call quits on the back pass rule, here we have Peter Schmeichel of Denmark participating in some pristine time wasting as Denmark overcame Germany at the 1992 Euros. This was the last time this tactic would be legal at a major tournament. And all of that is fair enough. Despite this, there were some pretty nifty moments. For example, Franz Beckenbauer became part of an elite group of people to have won the World Cup as a player and as a manager, a feat only accomplished by Mario Zagallo of Brazil and Didier Deschamps of France. Cameroonian striker Roger Milla was 38 at the time and came out of retirement to play in the tournament. He went on to score 4 and celebrated each of them with one of the most iconic celebrations of all time. Salvatore Schillaci, who before the competition began had only one international appearance to his name, was called up for Italy and put in a golden ball winning performance, and with 6 goals claiming the golden boot too. And did I mention that Gary Lineker pooed himself? I'm not sure I did. Anyway, that did indeed happen. And there we have it. Comment below which World Cup you thought was the worst, and also let me know what you thought of the video, as I do read the comments. Feel free to follow all my socials, all the links are in the description. That's all from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.